Welcome to the Minority Trailblazer podcast, and I'm your host, Greg E. Hill, the Culture Change Agent, man. We are here live and direct for the first, I wouldn't say first episode of season 8, but we're going to treat it like the first episode of season 8. It is 9 o'clock on a Thursday, right? I'm going to walk y'all through this as we kind of set it up and get into the scene. 9 o'clock on a Thursday, I woke up, I did some video editing, I had a session, and then I had an epiphany because first I was about to come and just edit the podcast, edit the first 5 episodes of the season and put it out. But I was like, I gotta, before I put out episodes, I wanted to kind of address like where I've been, like what's going on and things of that nature. And I was like, when do I have time to do that? And I was like, shoot, I got time today. Cause first, real talk, and our girl's gonna be listening to this. We were going through some stuff. So I was like, yo, I texted her. I was like, yo, what, do we have a date night planned? Nah, she had other plans. So I guess God moved in serious ways. I was like, what am I doing this evening? Then I thought, I was like, yo, I want to go ahead, because a lot of stuff's been on my spirit lately. I said, I want to go and record it, get it out before we actually really start this next season. I called Bass around too. Mind you, and y'all heard it on the podcast before, one of the busiest mans ever called, answered on like the 3rd ring. It was like, yo, you free tonight? With a baby, with a newborn. So shout out to Mama Bree for allowing him out the house to a certain degree. Let her tell it. All facts. So today I called him like, yo, I need you tonight, bro. I need you to come through and record. Then I hit Sid before that. I was like, yo, I want you to kind of be in the mix too, help out with the audio, but also to add some color commentary. I hit Woe, like I mind you. And I'm gonna unpack this whole thing. It's been a year since me and Woe didn't talk on the phone. Text Woe like, yo, Woe, I'm mixing, bro. What you doing? I'm in Charlotte. He was like, hey, can you come record? He's like, bet, we on the way. Like, so all this happened out of nowhere, all the energy, the essence, and I'm really, it comes full circle why these brothers are in here, how we're about to unpack certain things, man. So I'm excited about this show, and the format's gonna be a little different. I got my brother Marcus Bass, he's gonna be the key interviewer with me, kind of unpack some stuff. We gonna riff. More context, I was in his wedding, as well as roommates for a couple years, and Sid's my current roommate, knew him since high school, so it all makes sense now, man. So on that note, we about to jump into the show. Let's get it.
Oh man, G Hill in the Fleazy for the 2020 Wheezy.
Yeah. It's
been a long teasy. It's been a minute, man. Glad to see you back in the zone.
Yeah.
We've been anticipating this. The people been hungry. And this anticipation's been building, man. December 2020. You left us in that place, man, and look at where we've been so far. Yeah. Pandemic, life, everybody been growing, trailblazers across the country, probably doing crazy things right now. And in this moment, when you're coming back, starting off the new podcast season, one thing that's on everybody's mind is, who is Greg Hill in this point in this process? Yeah. Who is G?
Yeah, and the crazy duality is like, it's always hard, specifically in this moment, because we've been in contact with last year, like doing the work with Advance and Carolina and North Carolina Black Alliance. So we've been in contact. My church fan, we've been in contact. Sid, I live with Sid, but it's like I go through certain seasons, and we'll get to it where like I'm insular. Like my church family, my direct people that I'm working with, and that's it. And that kind of goes into who I am, man. One, Greg E. Hill. One, I'm an artist. Like I'm a real artist. I'm real sensitive about my work. So, I mean, I started this journey 7 years ago. This podcast journey. Before, there was no black podcasters, specifically no black male podcasters with sauce. They weren't talking about like sports or entertainment. I was like one of the first ones. So throughout this period, you know, I was 24. Now we're going on. I'm 32. God, we 32, right? We were just the bros at A&T, and now we like, it's a whole different scenario. So, one, I'm an artist and I'm deeply sensitive about my work, but I'm also deeply sensitive about like people and energy, and kind of just to jump right into it, because I know we got our talking points to jump right into it, man. Like, man, so much has happened over the last couple years. You're dealing with COVID, dealing with just a lot of stuff, man. So yeah, man, if I had to answer that, one, artist. Two, sometimes I can be a tortured soul, not in like a very dramatic way, but more so like I really do, like if something's not right or if something's not clicking, I'm not gonna be on nobody's podcast. I'm not gonna be speaking on nobody's stage. I don't do that. I still gonna put in the work, but I'm really sensitive about certain things, man. And for me to kind of take steps forward, one, I have to see growth for myself.
Right.
Like, and I get to it like my whole life I've had series, and you knew me since college. That's when it kind of began, where I had very high highs and very low lows. I would have 2 years I'm on the map, and a whole year like I'm just out of it. And I think one thing that helped me, the reason how I always come out outside of God is, one, when I get refocused and my vision changes. But two, it's like sometimes you need solitude. We might always just talking about it the other day. Like, we live in a culture where there's no solitude. Like, people will intensely post. People will still be engaged or trying to do stuff there. But without solitude, sometimes you can't reflect and see how far you've grown or how far you need to grow. And I think over the last year and change, it was kind of startling. One, how much I have changed over the last 8 years, man, when I first started the podcast. But also two, and we're gonna jump into it, how much farther I needed to grow.
Yeah, no, that's real. I think growth in this period, like approaching the main thrust of being an adult, everybody's got swift transitions, and we all handle it differently. You kind of mentioned like the step up, step back. We all do it. It comes across though when you're in the spotlight in a real way, when you take time off and come back in. And in your experience, like, where does that come from? Why do you think, you kind of mentioned a little bit, like kind of being in the front and then kind of taking a little hiatus in this point, in this time, jumping in and out. What does jumping in mean? You know, what did the jumping out mean? And bring us to how we are getting this new season.
Yeah. So, man, that's a great layered way, man. I think at the end of the day, it's crazy. I talked with it over a deep conversation with my girl a couple of days ago. I think the core of it all, not to get too meta, but growing up, right? Tall kid. I wouldn't say I had some sauce, but not really no sauce. I had about 4 braces. I was just a tall, dark-skinned kid, and that's when dark skin was not in. I tell the story all the time. Dark skin was not in. Like, it wasn't in Durham, North Carolina. You won't win it like that. So I wasn't a fighter. I wasn't soft, but I wasn't no hardcore dude either. I was funny, but I wasn't a comedian. I was like just trying to find my way. And then, you know, go get braces and you get a little glow. You still tall, you hoop a little bit. And my whole life, I've always been trying to like find my way. Like, am I the guy that needs to be in front? Am I a guy that feels better in the back? And I think a lot of times too, with my anxiety, like I have a lot of mental health, I wouldn't say issues, 'cause it sounds different, but yeah, I have mental health issues, right? So there's certain amount of things that I need to be in place in order for me to function the way it needs to go. And a lot of times when you're in front and you care about people, that means if you call me, I didn't call back, or if something happens like that, I'm the type, like, I'm in my head about it for a whole month. Like, damn, I ain't called Marcus back. Marcus might be upset with me or blah. How can I be on a podcast and I do X, Y, and Z? Like, and I'm real meta with that. So I think it's been taking a while for me to mature in a space where, one, I can own certain things and move ahead of it. But to be direct, I popped out, one, because I know the media you've seen, it was a whirlwind, right? Last year, before this first year off, we was another year, right? Another year in the mix that we didn't do any podcast shows. And that year was because I was in a weird place in my business and career. You know, you was living with me, like, yo, you paid your rent on time, I didn't. A lot of the times, right? Like, it was that. Like, it was a lot of stuff going on. And you know, you starting on your own, you just trying to make it. And when you realize you feel like you got that talent, but the checks ain't coming in just yet, and they coming in and not in the market you really want to go in. Then dealing with a relationship where it was very tough on me as a man, because, and I'll be honest, and this is the whole realm of this podcast, because I want to give y'all full context, right? Before even I came back on the scene, I was in a relationship where I wasn't bringing in no bread. Like, and then once you moved out, you got married and moved out, like, I had to make a decision. Either I'm 27 years old, go back home, or partially live with your girl. I was living with my girl, low key. Not low key, I was. And in a sense, I'm not in the whole relationship piece, man. Like, how can I be on a podcast? My No Trouble is a podcast recording, but I'm like, I'm not bringing nothing to the table at this point. Like, I was aimless. I remember, and I talked about it before, like months on end where I'm just showing up in the library and I don't know what to do. I'm applying for jobs, but I'm overqualified for some, underqualified for some, so I don't know where I fit in with that. Then the podcast stuff, I was like, well, they ain't really bringing in nothing. Speaking is like what I didn't feel my confidence, my aura, my frame wasn't in the place to speak on stages. So, and for me, sometimes it takes time. So 1 month go by, 2 months, 6 months. During the day, I'm in the library, like just trying to figure out life as a 27-year-old man who is living with his girl. And that pressure and that strain that I put in that relationship ended up causing us to break. Right, and the crazy thing is, that's right before the web production. Shout out to my boy Mike and Mike Farrell 27, man. I love him to death, man. That popped off right before we got back mixing the work that we've done with Advanced Carolina, etc. When they see us vote, that popped off. Everything was just popped off right during the midst of the breakup, like right before. And in my head, I was like, I felt weird because I know I did so much damage, just not really in it, and I wasn't my full self in it, and she held me down. But the damage was so much where by the time I came up, it was irreplaceable at the time. And at the time I wasn't mature enough. So I set out to say, how during that season, that was a whole year and a half where I'm just like, I'm on the edge. I'm like, who am I to, in my head, like, who am I to get on the podcast night in and night out and talk to folk? Who am I to be on social media for what? Like, so I went through a lot, man, and to this day, like, so the transition, just to set the full context, we left that relationship, and then from June to July, like right before, this was prior to the first 3 episodes coming, we was moving fast. Like, yo, so I go from not even leaving Durham for a couple years. Like, we went to Charlotte a couple times, not leaving, to now we got the funds and we got the opportunity to travel and explore. So pre-COVID, y'all saw me online, Miami, ATL, Houston, anywhere, getting the interviewing, like the momentum was rising. Until, and I'll share this story. I'm you know, when I get to talking, I overdo it, but that's what I do. Until the moment where I realized I had to slow down. Like, I was in Houston, I was with Frank, Tim, my line brothers, and like we were out mixing. Before we mixing, we hit the hookah, hit other things, we turned up. And then I'm in a I had the Camaro with the Hemi. So I was acting a fool in Houston, boy.
H-Town.
H-Town. I had the Pop Smokes going. Rest in peace, Pop Smoke. Like, I was like, yo, we mixing. Like, we had interviews lined up. The momentum was crazy. We go out to the club and I'm toasted. I'm at the bar and I'm just done. And instead of, like, I've never done this before, but I didn't want to be in the club, so I went to the car. But the dangerous thing happened when I was in the car. I actually turned the ignition on. And I was like, luckily, they, like Frank, Killian, shout out to Killian, they found me, and they got pictures too. They found me in the car with the ignition on, not going, and I was asleep at the wheel. And at that point, I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, that's when the music stopped. Like, it was like, you go from breakup, now you out, to immediately out, now you're flying everywhere. And it was cool, like you're flying everywhere, you're interviewing people, all this other stuff, but you're moving so fast that you had the audacity to get behind the wheel of a car. You've never done nothing like that. Get behind the wheel of a car, you would have died that night, period. There's no way I would have survived. And then that was the wake-up call. I had Frank and them, man, shout out to them. They took me, drove me to the hotel, walked me up, like, it was like, not walk me up, but an elevator up like 12 flights. Got me in the room, I woke up, I was in the bed, and they went home or whatnot, and I was like, yo, first of all, I'm too grown to be doing stuff like that. Like, that's not cool. And then second, I was like, if I continue on this path, like, what are you running from? Why are you moving this way? Like, what are you doing that? So I said that to say, we jump in, sponsorships, we outside of Scotch Porter, man, they were our first sponsor for season 8. We come a year and a half off. Got sponsorships. Your wife agreed to be the first person on the show. Like, Lil Bree Newsom came in throwing heat. And then December game, and then we was out the game. And I guess we'll unpack it there, so.
Man, you unloaded a lot. I think one of the things that reminds me of, and I know a lot of people that are used to the podcast, used to the brand, they know that authenticity is what drives all of this. When you put it out there, you put it out there in a very real way. And we always see the highs. Everybody always celebrates the highs. And in this case, like, you were really self-examining and then sharing in a real way. Not even necessarily the lows, but the parts that are not as high. Or in some cases, the part that are as high. Yeah. Talk about in this kind of transition between that moment to right now, kind of fresh off of all of this kind of peak season in the midst of COVID wilding, and then coming back to the moment where you needed to slow down and kind of bring your full picture. How did you know you needed to make sure that this did not drop, that you kept, even in this moment of kind of challenge, you kept the brand going, you saw the necessity to continue to be authentic, even in this moment right now? What drives it?
I think at the core of it all, man, like, one, I noticed something was a little off when, just like audio, I was peaking too high. Like I was hyper emotional on certain moments. Like even there was a great moment, I forgot. And what was with me at the crib, there was a moment like we had just did God Got Us or something. And then that next, like, and it was an hour, the next day I was just in tears. Like I couldn't, and I was like, why am I so emotional? Like why things are working out in my favor? Like why am I feeling so tight? Like why am I like really in this space? So then we look at December, we released that, and then I had to think about it like COVID is here, right? So COVID, I'm just coming off a breakup, and then now around that same time, that's when I met my current girlfriend, and man, she's been a breath of fresh air. But then also too, my brother, and we'll touch into it. My brother, he had got into a situation where he got incarcerated, and it was around that time we didn't know how much time he was gonna get. And I remember you were my roommate at the time, like my dad had bailed him out. He was at the crib just trying to figure stuff out. And our whole family was in a weird place. Cause like I'm 32, my brother's 21, and he was facing some big time. And then around that time, he had got 15 years, a hard 15. We had a baby. Now I got a nieces on the way. A lot of stuff happening. And I'm thinking like my whole world, and it didn't happen at once, but over time, like that weighing on me with that. Then my brother going through that, and then I had a personal situation, which I'm not going to delve deep in the podcast, but even my relationship, there was some stuff that I've never been through in my entire life that at the time, I didn't know how to process. But in my head, I said, I knew I would be back at some point, but I just didn't know when. But I knew this time, I wasn't going to check out like and just be roaming the streets. Like there's been time I checked on life, I'm roaming the streets, so I'm walking through bridges, like I'm just a nomad, like literally, like that's the key. But during that time, I was like, nah, it's gonna come back. And luckily I had people like my brother Mike, people like yourself, that I was still working, still in the lab, but I said I knew I had to be insular. Like I just had to have working with y'all, working with the church. I couldn't talk to anybody else because in my head, it was so, I'm thinking like, yo, who am I? My whole core of me at that moment, I'm gonna bring y'all to December, like right there. The core of me was challenged on a level I never got challenged for in my life. I got my brother, I'm 11 years older. His situation was so out the blue. So many people were involved. We on the news. It's just all crazy. And I'm like, you the same guy, you on all these stages. You the culture change agent. And your little brother is 10 years older. Like, what did you do for him? Like, who are you? And then in the fact, the stuff that we were going through with my relationship and things that happened, I questioned my whole psyche. Like, what is going on? Like, so I said, I can't honestly continue to push out work. I need to take a step back. And I thought it was going to be a month, but it turned out many months. And slowly but surely, we've been able to kind of get back. But I said this time when I come back, one, I'm still learning how to balance even having a relationship and doing what I do, because people that know me, that read my books, they know that when I committed something, I'm a maniac with it. Like I'm all in. I will not sleep. I will do it because I don't have, God's given me a lot of talent, but I don't have the talent that Coasting doing. That's what gets me riled up. But then having a relationship, somebody else you have to be involved with and grow that, I didn't even know how to do that. And also too, there's ego involved with that too. It's like, hold up, you in the space that I'm in, like you the dude, you can't really have no, it's like, yo, women is right here. That's your core constituent. Something like, it's cool, they don't want to see married brothers, but they like single brothers too. So it's like, it's a lot of stuff that's in your head. So yeah, man, I think coming in this time, I wanted to say, and me and Sid talk about it all the time, we're going to bring him on shortly, but I want to enter everything in a righteous way. And until I felt that I was in a real place, not in like, sometimes, oh, now I'm back. I wake up, I run 2 miles, I call everybody like, I've been there before. A little, oh yeah, I'm back. I ain't depressed no more, I'm not this. No, I had to sit in it. Yeah, I gained 25 pounds, 25, 30 pounds. I was like, I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way my clothes fit. I didn't want to be nowhere. I was like, who is this guy? Energy's low. I'm hitting Dame chicken the wall every day. I'm edit a video, hit that. You know, Dame's is coming every single day. 8-piece Popeyes, you name it, let's get it. Like, I just let it all go. And slowly but surely, I said, yo, and in the day, when I return, I'm gonna return righteously. I'm gonna return in a real way. And I need to see certain things in my health that I need to change. I need to see certain things in my relationship that needed to change. And I needed to see certain things in my friendships with my brothers that needed to change. Like, I can't come back if I'm not like me and Will built a lot over the last year. I can't come back and I'm like not me and Sid. Like when we first got the apartment together, like we talked about we had a vision of like we gonna collaborate, join forces. We never lost the core, but we weren't in sync. Like I'm not gonna start anything, and I learned this from ET. I'm not gonna start anything when everything else is disarray, because then that's not nothing righteous, no framework. That's not gonna last. So I said I was give myself time, and I knew that people around me that love me, that really know me, they know that they was gonna give me the time. And that's one thing that always I'm so grateful for. Even the podcast listeners, man, like I never got any negative emails. I got over 1,000 like text messages, calls, emails throughout this whole time. I never got any negativity because they knew that, yo, just give me the time to breathe. Like, because I'm a manic depressive. Like I'm very like, and if I don't have certain routines, like when my brother, all this other stuff, that threw off my whole routine. So if my routines are not locked in, I'm going off the deep end. I'm the guy, I will be in my room for weeks on end. Like that's the type of dude I am. So as I grow and mature, I said, when we come back, not only are we going to take this the podcast to the next level, but I want to make sure that the other stuff that we're working on, I'm creating the energy, I'm just giving the life to people, is on a different level. Because that's what makes the podcast or anything special. Not just I'm on the film and then after whatever. No, like what makes Greg E. Hill me, because when I'm in my right frame, when I'm into a room, you know it. When we talking about ideas, I'm not just like going with the flow back and forth. I'm really like, yo, let's do it. We're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and we're gonna do it. Like, join me at the polls. We didn't just talking high level. No, we did it. Next week we did it. But if I'm not on that type of time, then why should I be in front of people? There's enough people just in front of people doing whatever. So in my head and my conviction, as when I say pop in, I encourage everybody, when you pop in, don't lock back in just for like, what's your post? What's your reason? And now I'm reinvigorated. And we'll talk about why I'm reinvigorated to kind of come back with not only podcasts, but other platforms, because one, I had a great support system, people around me. Two, I had people that even if I wasn't in contact with, they believed me, they knew I wasn't just them, but it was like, yo, I'm gonna get myself together so I can be the best version of myself, which will allow my relationship to be the best version of what they need to be.
Man, G, you dropping gems. I'm excited. I think Sid is gonna come in and really kind of pivot us from the past year and a half to really like this past year, 6 months coming in, sharing everything about mental health, being authentic. Everybody's so caught up with celebrity now, right? Like everybody wants to be in this space where we get to see and examine every aspect of everybody's life. And I think the ability for you to recognize those moments where just by virtue of doing the work that you're in, you're not doing it for celebrity, but the exposure and the content puts you in a space where you got to recognize when it's time to pull back. And I think, just from the outside looking in, seeing what you produced, even in the hiatus, seeing the content that was grinding from all different angles, it was never a complete fall back.
Yeah.
It was a step back. Yeah. And I definitely, sense in this kind of element that we're in right now, people are starting new stuff.
Yeah.
People are going with the foundation that they had and creating something even better than where they were. And every step of the way, it's never been a complete fall back. It's been a stepping back, reassessing, coming forward. And that's just real, man. Does that land on you in a real way? Do you feel like you are, anytime you step back, you are losing something? Or do you think it is like a kinetic energy to where you can pick right back up when you jump back in?
At the end of the day, I think over time, I'll be honest though, I think you do lose something to a certain degree. You lose something. Some stuff is meant to be lost, but I do realize, just like Samson in the Bible, you're only gonna get so many shots. I'm a believer. Like, God's gonna give me a lot of shots, but if I continue to dim my light, if I continue to hide, God can take away that talent. He can take away all that. So I do believe you do lose because I don't want anybody to think you can just you can do that, but the bounce back, it ain't the same. It ain't the same. Like, it ain't the same. But I think what I did gain rather, and I actually want to take a step because I think what hit from the most, it was a moment last week or a couple weeks ago, me and my girl, we were in a special space. We were talking to, you're married, but you know all about that. We're in a deep space, and she said something that really, it hurt at the time, but it was so real, man. Like, she was like, I love you, but I don't know if I like you because I don't know who you are. And I was like, what do you mean, bro? Like the stuff, like me and Jamila, we never went nowhere. We done been in Colorado, we done went there, we done did anything you need. I'm always gonna make sure I do everything. I sacrifice. How can you say, how do you love me, you don't like me? Like, I don't know who you are. What do you mean? You read my book. Oh, she didn't really mean the book. Like, she was just trying to get me, so she bought the book and but it was like, how do you not know who I am? But then that's when I had to think about it. I was like, during that time, because I had to make a decision during the hiatus too, because I was ready to leave the podcasting world, leaving public speaking forever. I was like, yo, I'm gonna work on my independent projects. I got a good media mind. I can consult. I can still make good bread. And I'm gonna call it a day. Like, I don't want to deal with that pressure. I don't want to do that. But then I realized, like, the core of me, that's what made me me. Like, that is my core. And that's what attracted her to not just the fanfare, but that's what attracted her to me. Like, so what I thought I was doing by being a man, all this other stuff, I became somebody else. And it shocked me. I was like, that's why even in my relationship, I can't hide. I can't hide if I want to have a full marriage or be a father, if I'm dim and light, if I'm playing small, because it starts with, I'm not going to do a podcast. Then it leads to other opportunities come and I ain't going to do that. Then it leads to, trying new things as far as restaurants, going new places. You ain't trying to do that because you are so small, you're afraid of everything. So that's when I realized, and that's what it hits on, is anytime, any area of life when you're playing in a small space where you're afraid, it's going to go into all facets of your relationship. And when you're with the right person, they'll be the right person to be like, hey, because she could have easily, I'm receiving all this stuff, I'm just going to do whatever. She was like, no, I don't like you. And that hurt. I'm like, I'm thinking about marrying this girl. Like, she looked at me and it was like, yo, it was recent. I was like, damn, I don't like him. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what? Like, what do you mean? But that it had me really wake up. And that was the last point because I was clicking in the right direction. But then this was like, go off like, yo, remember who you are. Remember you're a genius. You like, this is win, lose, or draw. You got to show up. And I think that's what it's sentiment. So let's go ahead and bring Sid on, man. And because I want to ask this question. So Sid, ready? Are you going to test him? You good? I'm good. All right, so you can move on. Yeah. So first, I didn't even do introductions, but Marcus, executive director of, I want to make sure I get it right because I know there's a lot of red tape in it. You're executive director of Advanced Carolina. Yep. And
deputy director of North Carolina Black Alliance.
Yep, and Sid is the founder of Sidney Evans Audio. Does anything audio related, man, all this other stuff. In the bigger context, these are both my brothers and my roommates in the past. So, before we even jump into that, I did want to ask y'all questions, man. Like, from y'all perspective, because y'all seen me, but what is y'all takes during my hiatuses and actually living with me in those times where you seen the good, but you seen, not say bad, but the challenging moments. Like, I'm starting with you, Baz. Yeah, man, like what from your perspective, from the questions that we already shared and whatever, like what jumps out to you?
Man, first and foremost, it's I think I have a creative spark in me. Mm-hmm. At times I can be creative when I need to be, especially if I'm, getting ready for a presentation, talking to funders, talking to groups of people. I can turn it on and off. And then there's moments where I feel like I'm not as creative. So I know I have elements of creativity. You are creative. Mm-hmm. It comes out in everything. Seeing you in spaces where you were planning conferences, hitting the podcast interviews 3 times a night, seeing that high output, it let me know that you can't sustain that consistently because you lose the level of self-wellness. I didn't have the language for it then. I'm growing that language now. But so many times, man, I think high achieving, A-type personality, and you're creative, and you know how good you could be because you've done time and time again, created businesses, built brands. You are consistently competing with yourself. And that's a beautiful thing as a creative. And to see that firsthand, it gave me motivation, it gave me grind. And then to see you at your limit and then go to these moments of exhaustion, you know, I mean, you could tell when somebody's going through it. You know what I mean? Just, you don't have to have a long, drawn out conversation. If I'm hollering at you every morning before you dip out, hollering at you when you get back in, you could just tell the tempo is off after 1 or 2 minutes or just a few seconds. And at the same time, I think as Black men, we are still learning. We're learning how to be open and realizing ourselves, let alone being able to talk to another man about what's happening. Mm-hmm. But in the same sense, being like-minded, being of the same kind of spirit, you know, you can always tell when there is, you know, more left in the tank. Mm-hmm. You never came across as being on empty and was always grinding out. And so I think being in the space, living with you, man, it came across in a real way how hard you grind. And at the end of the day, when you keep pouring out, and you're not pouring in to that same level, because you took, you know, you enjoyed yourself, you took breaks, but at the same time, not at the same level that you were working. Somebody just told me, shout out to Dr. Margaret Brunson, who's doing a retreat with us in January. And she lives by this saying that a lot of us rest from a place of work. We have to get in this process of working from a place of rest, right? So we get so tired, or we work so hard till we get tired, and then we fill that battery back up by resting or doing something. But oftentimes we don't get all the way back to 100. Yeah. We get to 25 and then we burn 50% more. Yeah. And so I just think that's a perfect example of what you were going through. Like, all the successes burn you out. I mean, as much as it's a high, it's also a low, because you got to re-energize. And I mean, at certain times, being at that level, operating at that level, man, seeing it land and then seeing you bounce back, it was inspiring. And then at the same time, you know, I can see how much it takes out of you because I saw what you put in.
Yeah. What about you, Sid?
So just to reiterate the question, just my experience with living. Yeah. It's crazy because like when Bass and Greg previously were roommates, me and Greg are roommates now, and when we got this spot, man, like the energy, just the way the process happened from us being like we want to live together to us actually moving in was the quickest process that you can imagine, that you think like, okay, whatever is about to happen, it's gonna happen fast and it's gonna happen now. And once we moved in together, the complete opposite of that happened. The script flipped so quickly. Like, I was going through my struggles as far as my physical health, which led to struggles on my mental health. Greg was on 100. This is the time where we're kind of, you know, COVID was a real thing, but like people were still starting back to get to travel. He was going to Houston, LA, other places, recording, doing all this content. Like, he's on 10, he's on 100.
And the goal was with Sid to be the whole time, to be the right hand with the audio. But then, like,
it didn't work out that way. Like, and when he, you know, outside of him traveling, him coming back, you know, we have interviews at the crib, and I'm like, I'm in my room. We had like a dedicated room where we like, boy, we're gonna go down. Everything, the magic is gonna happen in this, and I'm hearing the magic, but I'm in a physical or mental state where I literally could not participate. And so going through that, is just like, as I slowly started to rise, and through the help of Greg, Mike, who we mentioned earlier in the podcast, and Walt, our group who we go on our fellows retreats with, like, we went on that. I'm like, okay, I need to get back to myself. I need to get back to being Sid. I'm on the way up, and Greg is on the way down. So it's like, as I'm coming back into form, he's like going into his mode, his hiatus. And, you know, for those who have known Greg over an extended period of time, like, he goes in and out of these seasons where, and we kind of got a run-in, a gag between us. It was just like, it's two things, really. Just, you're gonna pay one way or another. Yeah. So, and everything you do it righteously. Yeah. So, I never really, like, hearing him speak today about it. At that time, I didn't really connect the dots or whatever. But just knowing Greg, I'm like, when that moment is supposed to happen for him, when he's supposed to be in the mix, you know, he has the confidence. He feel like it's there, it's righteous. People gonna connect with it. But behind the scenes, if you know, if home not taken care of, or he's going through something, he can't just put himself out there and, you know, just be this figure, have this avatar, do whatever, and then go home, and it's just like he's not living in that same energy. So, and I told Baz when we were setting up here, We kind of laughed about it. It was just like the best way to get G to do things is to not bring it up at all. Like let him come. Like we got these grand plans. Like we briefly started the podcast network. We doing interviews. We're supposed to do a political podcast with Bass. Like we got the needle moving on these things, and everything just got put on hiatus. And to fast forward into now, it's just like it took me time to get back to myself. And even though I thought I was ready at that time to jump back in the mix, I wasn't fully ready. I needed more time. Greg with G was going through what he was going through, and like in this season for us to just I could just tell by the energy of we just came back from a fellas retreat. Greg, once he started posting them stories, 5:30 runs, once I'm hearing I hear him record, I'm doing whatever, I'm like, man, he getting back in the mix. Then we start having these conversations, and today like this just happened on a whim, and I'm like, I think this is that moment that we envisioned and that we thought was there that wasn't really there. I think the moment is now, and for this like just serendipitous moment to kind of all come together. Me doing things with interacting with him. He's shooting stuff. I'm editing it for the podcast. We're doing whatever. Like G's, I edited all these videos for the podcast. We've been sitting on them for a year, and I'm like, bro, what's going on? And for now to really be putting it out, and for us to be doing this, I'm a believer. Just everything it happens when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, and I'm just forever grateful because it's like, and for everybody, for all my people listening and watching, it's like, it's the small things that in your like, you have to look for the things in your people you're around to get inspired for. Like, it's not always them walking up Bass like, hey, Greg, pick yourself up. I don't think Bass ever in his life, I don't think so. I don't think he ever sat down with me and had a call. It's like, because he's a guy, I live by his action. Like, win, lose, or draw, I never knew what Bass could have been going through, whatever. But Bass, one thing, he always showed up. He was still on calls. He was still mixing. He was still on the road. Even when he could have been going through absolute hell. I could see it in his eyes like, yo, this ain't it. But he still moving. He mixing. He didn't stop. So I'm like, that encouraged me not to give up, like unpull the whole plug. It's like, yo, I'm in the house. I said, win, lose, or draw, hey, he's there. And then Sid, even in his journey, his health journey, and even what he was doing as far as commitment and becoming a vegan, and just his purpose and his righteousness and that, and seeing how he kind of grew and changed, and even our conversations just kept the spirit kind of alive. Mm-hmm. And seeing that, it's like, yo, that's motivating, and that encouraged me, because one area of my journey I talked about was my health, because confidence is everything. And I just say there was maybe one point I was approaching like, not a Adonis body, I was like really jacked. But outside of that, I've always been medium. But it's like, yo, you put on 30, 40 pounds, like, especially I'm not used to, like, man, you used to be big, like, you got that swag, you can do it. Hey. But when you skinny and not used to being big, you just always feel like you should not be mixing like that. Like, so, and then seeing Sid in his journey, like, really eating righteously. And I realized, like, I'm not eating righteously. My energy was low. Like, I couldn't even function high level because I was always tired, always sleeping, always that. So having him around and seeing, hey man, he's in month after month, he eating those things. He's not concerned. He see my wings, see Dames. He might have been tempted, but he
wings. Yeah, in the trash, I'm throwing something in the trash. I see, like you said, Dames, Wings, Stop, Popeyes, and I'm like, I'm not being judgmental. I'm like, and it goes back to the point where I said like, G wouldn't have got to this point as far as prioritizing his health if I would have tried to move the needle for him or push him. It's just like I'm seeing those things and I'm like, I know G, like I had this conversation with somebody. I'm like, he lived with me long enough. He gonna make some like you can't see somebody doing better that you feel, or you feel like you're lacking in that area. You see somebody doing better. You just know too much to just see that and just let it ride. So I live in that moment. Like I knew he would get to this point, and we at that point. Like I'm
6 months. I'm telling you, first 6 months, I did not touch a pan. Like didn't touch a pan. Like it was like that, man. So just having those mini convos and just thinking like, yo, one, I owed, and also two, lastly, and we're gonna continue moving on the joint. I know I had to come back because I owed it to too many people. Mm-hmm. I owe the people like, whoa, that sacrifice, like, bruh, did so much. Like I said, he put in a lot of groundwork. You know, he got paid for it, but still, it was at a discount. It was the Greg rate. Like, it's still like he put in work. Whoa. Put out the whoa. There was so many people that played a part.
Price.
Yeah.
Today's price is not yesterday's price.
So it's like, there's so many people throughout my journey that like stayed with it. My mom, my brother, like, to be honest, in my future family, I have to. Then now I woke up. There's a responsibility not only to say if I have my light, right? The networks that I build, like right now, a year off, what I'm still rocking. But I say if I diminish life forever in 10 years, where Zaire, he's going to college and he maybe need a recommendation or he needs scholarship money. Like the route that I'm going on, the trajectory that I've always been on, where I can call Chancellor Martin like, hey, let's do that. Like I'm training in that direction. And shoot, I done gave 50 grand at university, so I'm training in that direction, right? Like I'm training in a direction where somebody need a job at whoever. I know everybody everywhere is like they can get a job, but you dim them life for too many long, people they forget you. They forget your name forgotten. So now, how can you help your family when your brother get out of jail? Are you gonna be able to give him a job? Like are you gonna give him advice or a job? Like what is that? Your parents, when they become sick and then they need to move in or need retirement, who's gonna pay for that? Like there's a responsibility that's coming my way that it sounds good right now. I'm making up bread for me and doing that, but what's my influence? What is my impact? So I said, nah, I have to. It finally got to the point in my relationship with Jazz, in my relationship with my parents, everything, where it finally became, I've said it before, but it finally became bigger than me. And I think that's where we'll go. That's where we're going.
This makes me think of the quote they always use, iron sharpens iron. I think there's an extra kind of dots to that. Iron sharpens iron at the right time. Like so many different times you may be feeling dull, you're not all the way spent. And if you get sharpened too early or in the wrong time, you could ruin the blade. Yeah. But I mean, being in situations where you can sense how another person is moving, kind of knowing when you need to be sharpened at the right time, that is sometimes a lot better than always going back and sharpening iron. Oh. In this case, I feel like it is a perfect time in which you should sharpen that iron. It's just not always being sharpened. Perfect opportunity, I think, in this case, to really see that in example. When you're being close to somebody in a living capacity, just their example of how they're moving in the moment gives you that motivation. That's iron and sharpen iron at the right time.
And I'll also add, I forgot to mention, because I do want to give some type of tips and stuff like that. The core thing that sparked it back up, that sparked everything, was one. Me and Mike, we had a call where we knew, because that's one of my other brothers. He knew something was just off, and we were talking. Was like, yo, my relationship with God wasn't where it needed to be, but not just as simple as just reading the Bible. I was like, yo, I just needed the right energy around me consistently. So that's when we started the prayer call. So it was just me, Mike, Mike, my boy Terry. And we pray every Friday. Every Friday at 8 a.m. And that was the first thing. I said I need to be around some spiritual energy of brothers where I can share stuff with consistently, like not just like when I see them, but boom. So that was the first thing. Then my boy Terry started this thing called Married Mondays, where he had other married brothers that shared. It's not we didn't broadcast it too crazy because we want to still be intimate, but brothers that share like how to grow in your relationship, how to look at things differently, how you do things of that nature. Because I realized that, especially for anybody that's out there attacking your goals, sometimes when you're not attacking your goals in the way you think or the way you would like, it's not that you need to go hard at the goal. You need to do a self-evaluation of where are the 5 states of readiness, like what financially, emotionally, physically, like work on those things, and then so when you get there, you can stay there. Like, 'cause if you don't, you can get there. But can you stay there when emotionally something goes left? You don't have a community of brothers or people or women around you to uplift you? Or when it goes there, when a project goes, if you don't have a well of resource people that respect your work and enough know to give you, like, you can't sustain that. So I definitely think those things and having those conversations, and you hit on it too, man. And hopefully that's what this podcast and then also the next generation of what the content I want to produce. It's hard for brothers to, when they going through stuff, to really, like you said, sit down, let's just talk. That doesn't mean like you're mentoring me or you lecturing me, like it really is. Like it was during those times, in those seasons, and I understand why that happened. Like even when stuff got behind with the bread, like luckily I knew we have a kindred spirit where I don't even have to talk. It's whatever. But what would have happened if we just feel like, yo, Bass, I'm going through this. Like what? Like I need support and help. Like what would have happened? And then after, like, what happened when I called you after, like, yo, we really talked. It was like, yo, nothing is past, and we immediately went to work together. Like, even when Sid, luckily over time, even when we were, because there was months, it wasn't months we didn't talk, but it was just we were not in the same thing. Like literally same house, a whole month. He wouldn't see me, I wouldn't see him. Like the first 3 months, because he was dealing with it. He wasn't even at the crib for 2 months, and then getting back, and then I was traveling so much, and then it came where I didn't leave my room. And then it got to a point, probably weird because I didn't leave my room so much. If I saw him, it's like, damn, are we like, hold up, like, it's weird.
I don't want to accord at all. Like,
So
whatsoever.
it can get there. But it's really good. You have to have a community in this game, in anything. If you don't have a community, if you don't have it set up, and you're not in a community with the right people, if you single trying to get married, don't have a community with all single women. That doesn't make sense. Brothers too. Like if you're trying to, especially you're trying to grow and get better, be sure you're intentional about everything that's around you, and then it'll grow, man. But yeah, let's keep it rocking, man. Damn.
All right, so take us back to 2021. First drop of the new year. We done been through 2020.
Yeah.
We done risen again. Now we're at a place where we about to really possibly take this whole thing to the next level. And the first post of the new year is, you're late. Talk about that. How did the relationship in this moment take front and center coming into 2021?
Man, it was crazy because you know me, I always keep 100. She gonna be like, why is he selling so much stuff? I'm not Jada Pinkett in this joint though. I ain't going that deep. I'm not like doing that and all that stuff. But it was literally after we just had a not a good conversation. I was like, we were in the mountains and it just wasn't, stuff was just going left. And I was like, but then I thought about it. And I was like, man, it's a birthday, and I never, outside of I ain't saying names, but the only posted one girl ever on one of my social media was my girl that was in college, and I was real, and that's when I was finding my language on social media. But I was real. It was real lovey-dovey. It didn't work out. I felt foolish by even posting her, and then I was like, yo, you know what? Until I'm married, my goal, I always said, until I'm married, I'm not posting nobody on social media. It is what it is. Like, I'm not into that. But what it meant to me, man, one, I wanted to let her know, and I don't think it really bothered her that much, but who knows? It's like, one, that not only I'm comfortable claiming her and being with her behind closed door people that know me, it's like, nah, like that's my woman. Like, that is my queen. Like, that is beginning, not my everything now, but beginning to get that. I might have misspoke that, but y'all know what I mean. She knows what I mean. But it was like, yo, but the biggest thing was I had to ask myself, what was the fear behind that for all those years? Even in my past relationship, like, she probably felt the way. It was 2 years. I never posted. Nobody ever saw anything about it. If you didn't know, you didn't know. But it was a fear, one, of you putting something out there and it don't go right. As a fear of, two, being tracked all the time. Like, yo, you on social media, you online, like, hold up, what you eating that? You ain't telling me, like, just little stuff like, you ain't telling me you went to Chipotle? Like, what you dance for? Like, what are you doing? Like, those little things matter, bro. I was like, nah, I don't want to enter that stuff in my relationship. Let me be agnostic. Like, why are you there? You said you was going here at 5 o'clock. Like, why are you there? So I'm like, nah, let me not go that route. And then two, this wasn't the reason, but earlier a lot of times my reason for not posting on social media, because like, as a man, it's just, you just want to keep your options, but you just don't want to enter that route. You want to kind of be agnostic until you in the game. But I know in the moment I said, yo, in order for me to take the first steps forward, I can't operate in fear. I can't operate in fear of what if it don't work. If it don't work, it's okay. Like, nah, if you're going to come back, what is something that's been doing up this time that's held you down? What has been something that held you down, but also literally pushed you to grow as a man? Like, you know, women are very complicated. They'll push you into areas you don't want to know, especially certain type of women. And the type of woman my girl is like, in order to operate in this realm of her, she had to push me over this last year to remind me, and it took so long. And she was a person that reminded me of who I was outside of God. Like she reminded me because she was not happy with with just the regular me. Like she was not. It was an underlying, and not to say who knows by the time of the content she's still maybe coming around, but it was an underlying issue of like, yo, this ain't what I signed up for. I love him to death. He's responsible. But it's like, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna honor her and know that I'm not fearful of claiming her, but more importantly, I'm not fearful of if it doesn't work, then and it's gonna work. But it's like I'm out there. And then that releases me to say, hey, I'm out here with the podcast, and also too, I'm out here now. I'm out here to be held accountable as well. Now you know I got a girl, so the people that's like it was a long time coming, but it happened in the right space. But yeah, it was shocking to me too. But I said, nah, man, like this is the time.
Hey man, the right woman will put you in your place. And
I
you will want to be there.
It wasn't gonna be until I popped the question. Like I was like seriously, I was standing on that hill, but then I was like, nah, I had to get on social media at some point because I said that everything was clicking, but I was like, I'm not about to nah, I can't. It was not right. So I come back and I'm just like,
you knew you weren't gonna get away with that this time. That's you knew you knew that was not gonna ride at all.
Nah. In relationships, man, kind of different than friendships, right? Where you can kind of take a step up. You can't step as far back in relationships. In this kind of iteration, y'all are in a year, right? What's your biggest takeaway in the year? Has there been like moments where you want to step up and step back in that space? For all of us that are kind of juggling career, personal life, and then a relationship, kind of give us some of the biggest takeaways.
Yeah, man. And I'm gonna answer it. I'm gonna open it up a little bit. I think one was my biggest takeaway is how far I had to go in love and what it meant. My past relationships, I think one area I had one speed. Like I didn't change. I didn't adapt. It wasn't like, oh, I see you like this a certain way, I'm gonna do that. There was no levels to my romantic game. It was like because I'm a robot. Because I needed, for me as the manic depressive, like I need a journal. I need routine. So we went to the same restaurant. We were gonna do the same things. So I think I realized with her has taught me about how much I'm always gonna have to grow in understanding a woman. Like and you're gonna attest to that. Like it is not, oh, you cool, you do this, you that, you're good to go. I just always thought I was gonna be that guy. Like, hey, as long as I'm doing what I need to do, like I can get along with any woman. It's not the case. You have to really, you gotta intentionally grow. You gotta be. There's a lot of areas you gotta work on and work in intentionally if you want to have a fruitful relationship. Right. So that's the biggest thing I tell you. Like every day I'm reminded, like, yo, I gotta grow how I love. I gotta grow the depth of how, like, what is, like, oh, in college, bro, like I didn't go on no dates. We didn't see talking about the other. We didn't go on dates at A&T with the bros. Like we didn't go on no dates. If anything went on dates, people were paying for us. Like, what do you mean? Like I didn't.
Hey man, use our statements, bro.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We making it sound kind of radical out here right now. We were chivalrous now.
Yeah.
But there were moments.
Yeah, there were moments. But it's like, so I think that's kind of what I've learned. But I want to throw that question back at you, not to put you on the spot, Bass, but it's like, I know you're a married man, and like, what if you got during this pandemic, like how you love your wife, especially as a new father as well?
Man, first of all, shout out to any relationship that made it through this pandemic. I think it's very real to be committed to somebody through one of the worst times in the world history, right? Like you had to be stuck with somebody in a house for a whole solid year. And we saw a lot of shakiness in a bunch of different ways. Everybody does, but to realize that you're on a solid foundation, to get to the point where both of us A-type personalities, always grinding, to have a moment to just sit and focus. Of course, first thing we did, we had a kid in the mix. And then that created its own set of challenges, right? I was one of the cats that was always very interested in having all of my professional career set up. So that way when I got a wife, the whole marriage, household, everything would just be cookie cutter, step by step by step. Doesn't happen like that. We'll never finish working on ourselves. The person that I was, even when I proposed to my wife, is not the person that I am right now. And I think for me, some of the biggest takeaways in this year in the moment of pandemic is establish that real understanding first. A lot of people call it a friendship, but a lot of friendships aren't based in understanding. They're based in necessity. And I think after you kind of get that friendship, there still needs to be a set of boundaries, right? If I got to step back, I need a day or two to kind of reflect. I need to be able to communicate that, to let her know what's going on. And I don't need to operate from a sense of weakness, but a sense of masculinity. Like, it's a masculine trait to be verbal about your emotions, not to be weak, or not even masculine or feminine. It's just a strong trait in relationships. And so I'm really learning that in the moment. Being around a wife and a kid 24 hours a day also puts in your mind, especially if you're high excelling, the fact that you really do have to reprioritize. When you have a serious committed relationship, that is the priority. And to say that you are going to keep working at the same pace and putting out things at the same pace is really cheapening and cheating a relationship. And it's showing your partner that they may not necessarily be the top priority. Same thing that comes with the kid. The first 3 months, man, it rocked my world. From the standpoint of just having to take care of somebody 24/7. But I think at the end of the day, it brings a deeper sense of purpose. Like you said, like you realize, some people you just can't let down ultimately. And especially the person that you pledge your life to, and then the person that you decide to bring into this world, it puts a whole nother level of responsibility and grind to it. Even though you have to take a step to reprioritize your kind of situation and some of the things you're working on, you gain tenfold because you know you have a solid partner, somebody's gonna rock with you. And that ain't always perfect, but every single day knowing that you got somebody that's gonna go for you, and you all are going for something bigger, be it a whatever relationship goal or whatever child, that puts it on a whole nother different level. Because most people are just excited to see you do you. It doesn't necessarily add value to them. But to know that everything you do from being here at 10, 11 o'clock at night is adding value there, and then keeping that priority, it makes it all worthwhile, man, in a real way.
And I got a question for you, Sid, but I do want to ask one thing because I want to highlight it too for my girl, as well as others. Like, what do you do when? Because I know there's probably been, and I don't want you to get in trouble either. At times,
End of the year, bro.
Yeah, I know. End of the year. At times, a relationship where. Let me ask you like this. Is there ever been a time in your relationship with your wife that y'all on the same page, but y'all didn't like each other? Not like, you just won't, it was like, it was some, but like, can you walk me through that? Because a lot of time we don't, if you're not intentionally having married or talking to married men and learning from them, you don't know how to, like, some people don't know how to deal with the situation. Like, there's times when you probably like, I don't really like you like that. I love you, I don't like you. I don't really, so how do you deal with that? Has that happened to you before?
Fortunately, I love my wife, and that includes extra, extra like all the time. So if I give this example, you know what I mean? It's maybe just something to be quite honest, man. Whoa.
I see you politic. He trying to figure out how I'm gonna answer this question, how I'm gonna give a raw answer, but still keep the shade on.
All right, so I love my wife. I'm gonna start off by saying that, right?
Yeah.
Certain things will happen in the relationship that I don't like. When that happens, the immediate thing I do is I don't approach it like from the standpoint of being verbal. I think about it, especially if it's something like 2 or 3 hours later, I'm still pissed off. I don't even want to talk to her, look at her. My first inclination is check myself, because 9 times out of 10, it's not something that she's done. Yeah. It may have been something that she said, but she didn't even have a context of how close I was to the edge of that traumatic experience. And so before I think about it, really picking the little nitpicky thing that she said that triggered the experience or the feeling on my end, I got to think about, where am I? Yeah. What conversations have I had today? What have I done in the past 48 hours? Who has said something to challenge me? And now because she asking about, going to a different spot that I picked for dinner as the place that I wanted to go, why am I really wilding out about that? I mean, ultimately too, it's not always on us, right? Regardless, there may be something going on with her. Yeah. And I think that there's a way you got to go about doing that too, right? If I know that her balance is off, We just not, seeing eye to eye right now. I'm not just gonna automatically go to what's wrong. We got to figure out steps. You gotta
I'm
massage that
Mr.
thing a
Ricky.
little
I
bit.
still be like, yo, what's wrong? What can I do? And it's like, get away from me. I'm like, bro, what's wrong? What's wrong? Like,
Or she hit you with a quick nothing, and then you be like, you off to something else. Well, I done asked you one time.
Yeah.
Now you gotta, just like you approach romance, you gotta approach the challenge in the same way. You gotta be tender. You might want to start out playing some music on the phone before you get into the real deep conversation. You may want to get, a little favorite snack or something like that from downstairs and bring it up, and then y'all ease into it. Because, even in the most, heated moments, that's still your unit. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to do her greasy because you don't, that's not how you want the relationship set up. But I will say there are times where we are challenged with very strong feelings about how we've done, and we try to check in. We went through this on session too. I got to shout out Byron Benton. Aggie is a pastor in Charleston now. He has this philosophical approach to relationships based in like this African ideology called imago therapy. And it's really based in like centering every relationship you have is not based on, I just met Sid or I just met G. It's based on everything I went through before I met Sid, everything I went through before I met G. And so in that space, you have to realize that you have to be more verbal, especially in times where you think people know you the most. It's really the situation where you need to be more verbal about what you've experienced and how certain moments lead you to certain end results. And really starting from a place of how did what I do or what I said make you feel? And being okay if it came across on the wrong way, because if it offended somebody, especially your partner, then you gotta recognize where that came from, traumatic experience or not. So gotta shout out this imago therapy. That's really been helpful. And I think everybody should just go to therapy straight up, like personal relationship therapy. There is a line there, because when I was in my relationship, girlfriend, boyfriend, just dating, I don't think that's always necessary at the time. If you have to go to relationship therapy in the midst, before you even get to that space, you should go to personal therapy first. Check in with yourself and then kind of figure out what relationship therapy. But relationship therapy is when you're really down for that ring, when it's that time.
I know about it. But now let's throw it to you, because it's crazy. We got the alternate, like during the pandemic, new father, marriage, etc. And then now during the pandemic, single brother, and it's like just going through like, so how has it been? What have you learned about yourself and just the whole experience now, like as a man going through this, as a single man?
Well, the context of relationship, I think like I'm a real mellow, not get too high, not get too low type of dude. And generally speaking, to certain levels, like all the people in my circle, you know what I'm saying? Like you're around like-minded people, so I know we can all relate on some level. So for me, like in a relationship context, first of all, I'll back up and say the biggest thing for me was accepting that men or women are just different creatures. If that's why there are two sexes. There's a man and there's a woman. If we were both alike, there would only be one sex, and that's I don't know what kind of world would that be. But we are different creatures. We're motivated by different things, and I had to accept that, because in just my past relationships and with dating, there's just certain situations, and I'm just like, that doesn't, for me, like this seemed very simple. It's not that deep. Why is this necessary? Like, it's like, why, like, I'm asking you, like, somebody asks you a question, instead of trying to answer the question, you're like, why are you asking me that question? You're it's like bang your head up against the wall in that context. So I had to accept that. And the next step, biggest step, and I'm still working on that, obviously. The next step is, like, I realized I understood, like, how to catch a woman's attention. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm a former basketball player. I'm a collegiate athlete. Like, I'm this height. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in shape to a certain, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, I can catch somebody's attention, but I had no idea what it took to, once you get in the mix with somebody, how to maintain it. And the maintenance part is the hard part. Like, the attraction, that's easy. You don't have to, you only put a limited amount of effort into that. But when you in the mix with somebody one-on-one, they coming to you with, this is what I need from you. You going to them, this is what I need from you. And y'all you have to find a happy medium. it's difficult, and like I always haven't been the best with dealing with situations that made me uncomfortable. Just like G said, I have a propensity to, let me retreat. Let me let the smoke clear a little bit, and then let me come back. And it's just like you can only avoid something forever. Like you gotta address it. So with dating, once you find somebody that you're interested in, once you get past that initial step, okay, let's see where is this going with that person. Trying to figure out their nuances. How often do they like to communicate? How often do I like to communicate? And then finding a happy medium. And I was having a conversation with G recently. It was just like, you could think you the manliest man or this type of guy, or I got it figured out. And then you get into whether you're dating a woman, a relationship, or a marriage, whatever stage you're in, it was just like, that is going to push you to become the greatest version of yourself. Like undoubtedly, because it's going, whatever, nuances or cracks in the armor, whatever, it's gonna get revealed at some point. Like those it's gonna get revealed. Like you cannot exactly. And it's like when you dating, you can kind of hide behind a little bit. You know what I'm saying? When you're in a relationship, you're a little more exposed. I'm not married, so I've only been as far as being in a relationship, but I was previously engaged before. So I can only imagine, like in bad situation, like crossing over into the marriage threshold, just how much even more those things you can't hide. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to run. So the things about you that like you're perceived, like this person think you got it together. You can even convince yourself that you got it together. But if you really don't, it's gonna get revealed. So really having to do that work. And you don't have to have it all figured out, but at least have a foundation of I can build from this, whether it's going to therapy, whether it's being out the dating game for a minute and just saying, okay, like, let me really, like, I'm in these situations, I'm dating, it's not working out. Like, I really like this person walked away. I was willing to walk away. Just like, okay, like I'm the common denominator in this. So I need to really figure out what it is that I need to fix and then get to a good place with that. And if the other person is in a good place with that too, y'all come together, the only thing you're having to try to figure out is the interaction between the youths. You're not trying to fix you and them and y'all together. You're just trying to make together work. So I think that's the point where I'm at, and I'm still single, so I'm still growing. I'm still having these conversations with G, who's in a relationship, with Bass, who's married, and I don't get to see Bass as much, but whenever we do come together, we're talking about it on the podcast. Best believe we're talking about it in the background. Like we're trying to, you know what I'm saying? Everybody trying to get to that point. We at that age where we want to leave a legacy. We want to have families. You're seeing these beautiful unions coming together, and it's like it's a part of you that wants it. No matter how much I try to or we try to suppress it or hide from it. Like at the end of the day, like you're a human. You want that camaraderie, you want that community, and community starts with family. So I'm just working every day to try to figure it out. And so I can get to that point, and which will lead ultimately to a healthy relationship.
That makes me think too. Most guys I know suffer from great guy syndrome, right? Like we, in our mind, we want to be a great guy, and we are generally good guys. To the point to where if somebody, especially a significant other, challenges one thing, she's actually trying to make you a great guy, or really just kind of bringing out an observation, but in your mind is devastating. It's like, golly, like I'm trying so hard to be a great guy. That this one thing that you're bringing to my attention, is this really what you're going to bring to my attention? In reality, bringing up one thing doesn't negate all the other good things you do. You're still a great guy, but it just shouldn't land on us that we got to be, 100% perfect in that same kind of cookie cutter mentality. That great guy syndrome hurts a lot of us in relationships.
And that's a good segue, because I know we about to close the books, man. Because just for a preview, man, I got these brothers out 10:30. The married brother, kid. I know wife like, what the f is going on? Like, what are y'all niggas doing? I mean, what are y'all guys doing?
So we get that couch, brothers.
Yeah, we gonna get that. Like, I probably he done made lamb chops on the grill, and I probably done messed up the whole evening. But it's all good, because guess what? He get there, the son gonna be in the bed right there, looking at him like, yo, Dad, I'm in the middle of this thing. But in the flesh, man. But I will say, man, to tie a knot in that, it is kind of crazy in society. It's hard because if you're not intentional, having conversations with other brothers that are married or all this stuff about relationships, etc. Not like all just the bad, but like how can you grow? What tools are you using? Scenarios, situations, because you look at music or look at TV, you only see the end results. You see already see the family, you already see the sex, you already the lyrics, you already they done hit the chick already, they done got the top, they don't talk about any of the other stuff. Like it's just all that. Like, but the meta in relationships, like what do you do when your partner says they don't like you? What do you do? Like, what do you do? Like as a man, your ego is just like, boom. Do you get out of the way? Do you leave? Like, what do you do when somebody tell you need to step up your sex game? What do you do with that? Like in relationships, like and when you in casual flings, hey, they get in and out. What do you do with your partner? Be like, hey, it ain't enough.
Right. Where we at? We're round 3, round 4.
And you like in your head, you act like I never went to round 3. In your head, you like, I remember I used to go for like 35, and then it's like, dang. You had to reevaluate some things. You need to call brothers and be like, hey, what are you using any supplement? What you using? Like, oh, I need to get my diet right too. Like, I need to work on myself. So it's like,
shout out to Green Tea.
Yeah, shout out.
It's a bad place. I'll just be quick when like if the attachment is the only thing that's holding you together, is you might as well start counting down. If it's like I don't like you, I'm not fulfilled with you emotionally. I'm not fulfilled physically. None of that. I'm just attached to you. So that you hanging on by a string. So that's not a good place to be.
Yeah. So you gotta. But those are conversations you gotta have, and brothers gotta feel open to, because if you don't, that's why a lot of some of our parents and our elders, that you look like, yo, their relationships are good, but they never hit great. And it's not because they didn't have greatness within them. But did they really have a community of brothers and people around them, brothers or sisters, a network to really talk through relational stuff? Did they really seek the therapy? Did they really take it to that next level? You don't have to do a marriage for 50 years, but if you want a vibrant one, you're gonna ask those things, and those things don't normally come up. So, but I guess we can transition to the close, man. Like, what's next?
So yeah, I mean, tell us, man. We've been a lot of places in a short period of time. We've covered 2 years. Yeah. Now we are right now in the now, man. What could we expect in this new format? These episodes are going to be dropping. You got Black History Month coming. You share with us a lot, not just about the podcast, but also about G. Tell us what's on the horizon.
Yeah, man. We got 21 days left in this month or something like that, 3 weeks in. So I'm releasing the whole season 8 this over the next 3 weeks. So 21 episodes, they're all going out. Probably like in the span of, we'll do probably like 4 every Thursday. I'm gonna figure it out, but we just dropping them. Like, they gotta get out. Then we'll come back Black History Month with and shout out to all the PR people and all the other folk that blowing up the inbox. Got a couple hundred interview requests, so we're gonna get to that. I'm not gonna do all of them, but sorry. But yeah, we're gonna Black History Month will be right back, join right back in the thing. I am excited about a couple new projects. I don't know the timing yet, but I'm also gonna be launching the Greg E. Hill Show. So it's gonna be different than Minority Trailblazer podcast. 'Cause Minority Trailblazer is more like business, one-to-one experiences. My show is gonna be more so, I'm gonna have different themes. It's gonna be different layers. But the core theme of it is going to be very conversational. We might have brothers come and talk about abortions and how they deal with it. Like, who talks about that like that? Like, how do you mostly deal with an abortion as a brother? Like, what did you go through? Maybe we might bring some we might have marriage talk. We might have different talks. I might bring in a sex therapist. Who knows? I probably won't go that route. But I'm just going to be I'm really going to dig into some real topics and things that I want to talk about. Like, I know trouble is sometimes I'm doing great interview, but it's not stuff I want to talk about. Yeah. I don't really care about your healthcare startup. I really don't. It's cool, and I can get deep with it. I can kind of metasize, but like, I want to talk about what's on my mind with other like-minded regular folk. Don't need to be celebrities. I don't care about that. Because at the end of the day, one of my goals with this, not just to have a great podcast show, bump that. I wanted to be a male to a certain degree, Oprah. I wanted to be Arsenio Hall used to have his show back in the day. So instead of me waiting for BET to call me, it's like, we can create BET. Me and Will talked about having a studio a year ago. And the plan was a year ago, but I wasn't ready for that. Emotionally. Financially, I was ready. But emotionally, was I able to kind of go through and do that? I wasn't yet. So now the time is going 2022. Like, we're going to have a show, working on the studio thing. And it's going to be just a brand new experience, brand new vibe. I'm really excited about it. So that's cool. So MTB, we're just going to keep the party rolling. I'm inspired by Kevin Hart in a sense where I'm like, Kevin Hart's in all these movies, but he still got all these shows. He has a radio show, multiple radio shows, got the Cold as Ice joint and all these movies, got his podcast. And I'm like, so now I can do 2 shows because we still, Minority Trailblazer Media is still here. Like the network is still alive and popping. But now it's like, yeah, I'm gonna lead the front, man. I'm gonna be the front leader in that. And then we're gonna see where it goes. And the last thing is continue to expand Minority Trailblazer Media. And what we do as far as developing original content for corporations and nonprofits, etc. Shout out in collaboration with Feral 27 and Evans Audio and Skyport Drones. A lot of brothers I'm with. Just creative strategies and really taking that to the next level. Working with Woe on a lot of things as well. Man, like now is the time. Finances, we're in order through blessings, through God, people like yourself, everybody else. Emotionally, I'm getting to it because I'm still raw, but I'm the right type of raw. I'm the raw as far as I'm healing raw as opposed to I'm hurt raw. Yeah. So in that place, physically we locked in. We gonna drop 15, and now it's a righteous 15, not because I'm dieting. But it's like, no, I'm eating, I'm feeling good, eating the right foods. I want to go to the gym. I want to be locked in because I realize like I need that energy to do it. Like back in the day, you just 22, you got the natural energy. Now it's like, if I'm not in shape, I can't do that at a high level. So yeah, man, I think that's in a nutshell what we're working on, what people can know to expect and what they can see in 2022. I know 22, I'm going to go crazy hard. 2023, I don't know. God allow me to see 2023. I don't know. We'll probably do a slight pivot because I've realized too about energy management. What I don't want to do is like go crazy 6 months and then 6 months I'm out. Like, nah, and then personally too, I know we're going to ask that, but I'm going to jump to it because we got to get out of here. Personally, man, I mean, hopefully I plan on being married, like, in 2022. Like, I really plan on making those steps, man. Who knows? But, you know, you start putting stuff like that on podcasts, then stuff can either blow up or it can rise. But, yeah, man, I plan on just making those next steps, man. Like,
that's a big announcement to make right now. Just to drop that thing.
Bruh. It is, but like I said, win, lose, or draw. If it don't work, I mean, I'm not gonna talk like that. You know it's gonna work, baby. I'll put the pressure.
Nothing back.
I'm putting pressure on her now because if it don't work, the girl's she gonna get attacked online. Like, what the hell? How could you do this to her, brother?
It's gonna go viral in a bad way.
Yeah.
Off the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Love it.
R.I.P. Young Dog, crazy. That's why I like my show too, because I mean, there's so much stuff going on in this community, like especially the work that specifically y'all doing in Advanced Carolina and NC Black Alliance. I know this is not the place for it, but I got to plug. Like, there's so much real stuff that's going on that has to be elevated in we already talked about it years ago, in a multi-layered approach, not just a ham-fisted policy. Look at House Bill 202, because people are like, what was that? But that's really House Bill 220. Like, that really is affecting a lot of people. Like, breaking stuff like that down, really having those huddles and bringing those lives. Like, we have to do that. There's too many homeless kids. There's too many homeless people in general with homeless kids during this holiday season. There's so much going on. So I said, Minority Trailblazer podcast, I can highlight it, but my own show, I can really do it how I want to do it, man. So I'm excited about what's coming next. I'm excited about really working with my brothers, and now I feel like we're all in a good place too. Like, we're all moving forward. We're all physically, majority of us physically getting better. Financially, we're getting better. Everything is getting better. So now is the time to pop out and dominate 2022. And lastly, on that note, man, I always think about what's the theme. And I talked about it on the last episode. The theme for this year and going forward is, especially next year, don't dim your light. That's it.
That's good.
That's what I want everybody to do. Like, don't dim your light. And though it's challenging at times where you like, yo, I don't feel like doing it. Like, learn from me, man. Don't waste a year. Like, even though I learned from a year, it was still a whole year. People die in years.
Yeah.
Companies change in years. People change in years. Like, relationships change in years. So luckily I have a support system. People like, well, whatever. But it's like, don't waste too much time. Because as we've seen during this pandemic, as we've seen through life, a lot of stuff is not promised, and people and things will change. You can change. So don't dim your light. Stay locked in and get excited because, yo, we back.
One more year to change the culture. Back.
Yes, sir. So I guess, we wrapping up, man. So I want to say this last part where, first and foremost, I want to thank you, brother, man, for 3-4 hours of your night out of the blue. And I'm telling you, I'm not just being hyped. This man is the most busy man I've ever met. Anybody can attest. He's always doing something, or he should be doing something, because in the politics space, every time is borrowed time. With the wife is just as busy with a kid, fresh off the grill, and got spiffed up to came and rock out with me. I appreciate that. I appreciate you, Sid, man, off the whim, blowing this phone up, asking all these questions a day, like making it happen. Appreciate Whoa. First time hearing his voice in a year. We texted 2 times. He was like, hey, I'm there. Like, what's up? Like, not too many people like that. Like, I'm there. After a shoot, he's a different dude, man. And most importantly, for all my supporters, the fans, the listeners, etc., man, for y'all kind words and engagement over the last 7 years, man. Some of y'all been listening for really 7 years. Like, y'all seen every part of me. I share a lot on the podcast. Like, y'all seen every part of me. Y'all still stay true, still show support and love, and that kept me stronger than I ever would have been by myself, man. So I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Shout out to my young boy Justin Sexton. I gotta hit you up, man. I love you, man. I really do. So many others, man. I can't name them all, man. Love you, Mom, because I know you're listening. So I love you too. Man, it's been a blessing. It's been an honor to have this with y'all brothers here. I'm more so looking forward to what's next. Like, I really am. I'm excited. I know it's a lot of work gonna be done. There's gonna be a lot of draining, a lot of grind. But yo, we built for it. But now, to close it, I think I'm wise enough to understand that changing the culture, it doesn't happen, and we know this. It does not happen in one night. It doesn't happen in a year. It doesn't happen in a lifetime. But what it does happen when throughout the time you're learning from your peers, and you're learning from them by asking the right questions. And then listening for the right answers. So going forward, it's like asking questions about energy management. How can I manage my energy better? After all these years, like, it's the same start and stop and go. That's cool, but what is the flow in that start and stop and go that you can measure yourself so you don't over? Because I'm not young anymore. I just can't I'm wake up at 4 a.m. I'm be like that. Like, nah, figure out what that looks like for you. I'm still figuring it out, but figure out what it looks like. But have that intent doing that. Figure out what it looks like to continue to, and I think we have that, maintaining relationships with your brothers, whether it's a prayer call, whether it's monthly meetings with married brothers. Like, figure out what works for you to keep you at an optimal level. So yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm thankful for all y'all brothers, man. And as always, I got to end on this, and y'all already know, as always, I need you right there that's listening or watching. And y'all can see I'm tired of my eyes, but I'm still got it. Y'all need you to continue doing that one thing and one thing only. What is that, Mr. Hill? Continue to change the freaking culture. And we out.